Now, when you're dealing with the global web, the internet, the websites, it's an artificial version of what the Earth's global grid is. Now, the World Wide Web, which people know it as the internet or the Ethernet, that is pushing information and pushing intel, because the intel turns into information, but it's basically pushing the information stage. The intel, the intelligence part of what's going on this planet is not going to be pushed. So the internet or the Ethernet is an artificial version of the world grid. Now, when you look up the world grid, and you know it consists of each crossing point consists of high energy of magnetism. Now, why is it like that? Why is the magnetism on that level so active and so distraught? Because they're portals. Like I broke down in my other video about the portals. They're portals. They're spots on the planet that when you go to, it's so the magnetism is so high that when you're dealing with anything that's electric, that is man-made, not organic electricity. I'm talking about man-made electricity or mankind-made electricity. When you're dealing with that, it's not going to function right because it's artificial. It's not organic. So when you enter these zones, which a lot of people call them dead zones, because they're dead zones because no technology is working. And if it does work, it's not going to work accurately where it serves the meaning on the mission that you're there for. So the global World Wide Web, the internet, the Ethernet, when they pushing all this information and have everybody going back into the past, well, not everybody, but majority of people going back into the past and always looking for something, because they know that the receiving point is where it's at. You have to be somewhere. Your mind has to be activated to a point that you're a receiver. Everybody's not going to get activated. That's just the way the planet is. But the internet is pushing. It's an artificial version of the world grid. It's moving. When you have one computer over here, say in Asia, one over here, you can send the information through the ether, the grid. You send it through not the grid, but you can send the information through the artificial grid, which is the internet. Now, the portals that and you're dealing with the Bermuda Triangle. You also have a couple of spots that line up with the Bermuda Triangle, that certain things happen there for a reason, because when allegedly these planes and these aircrafts, when they disappear, they didn't disappear. They just went through a portal. They went into another dimension. And when you go into a dimension, when you go into these spots and you go inside a dimension and you actually breach it, you're not coming back. Because the other side is not going to have you back here. Why? Because then you're going to leak out the intel. Everybody's not prone to receive intel. So when these planes disappeared through the Bermuda Triangle, they went through a portal. They disappeared, went through a portal. So now they're stuck in that dimension. Now that their molecules and DNA get shredded, because you're in this realm of reality, and you go through a portal. When you hit another dimension, your body and your cells might not be compatible with that dimension, so they might even shred up into nothing. So they make sure you don't come back. And then when you're dealing with the grid, that's the grid. That's these crossing points, the crossing points. And you notice that the grid looks like well, the crossing points, they're triangles. But the when you're dealing with multiple triangles, they turn into a pentagon. They look like a pentagon because it's the crossing points of the magnetism. It's where and a lot of these places, they're not being habitated for a reason, because when they port, they don't want nobody around. When they come through these different dimensions, they don't want nobody around. So they understood when they transport and they come back here, these so-called gods, when they come back, they're coming back through a portal. They're not using spaceships. They're not using spaceships. They might use a craft to port, because why would you travel through the when you're dealing with the upper dimensions, you're not going to travel through space in a craft, in a spaceship. You're going to manipulate the portals and you're going to open them up, and then you're going to transport that way. It's porting the portals. They're porting intel. On my last video, when I broke down the portals, they're porting intel, portals. So all these grids that are set up around the globe, and you have a lot of spots that's set up around the globe where there's no livable activity. It's like that for a reason. If you go there, you'll be so distraught mentally, you won't even want to live there, because there's going to be certain frequencies and certain magnetism that's going to distort your electrical system in your mind. So you're not even going to want to even be in those areas. That's why there's nobody living in those areas, because the magnetism is too strong. That's the organic web. That's what the grid is. It's an organic web. The internet is artificial. It's the Ethernet or the internet. That's what they're using. They're using these certain spots on the planet. The magnetism's so high there that they know nobody's going to want to be habitable in those areas. So when they port through these portals, nobody's around, so they can go in and out. You know, there's some stories about a couple of portals even being under the water, porting through the water. So that's the organic version of the internet or the Ethernet. It's these grids, these portals, the magnetism. Because one reason why they have to keep upgrading their systems, and the system just using 5G, they have to keep upgrading their systems because the sun's getting hotter. So as the sun gets hotter, you have to turn up your frequency levels so you can keep communication. That's why they keep upgrading it. They're upgrading it because the internet that's out right now, and you're dealing with these cell phones, they're fast enough where, you know, it's not instant, but it's fast enough where you can get a lot of stuff done within 10 minutes on your phone. You can get a lot of stuff done in 10 minutes on your phone. So what they're doing is they're making the signal stronger as the sun gets hotter, because the sun's shooting down these rays, and the rays are getting hotter, so it's messing with the communication system that's going through the air, the Ethernet, messing with the communication system. So every certain point, every certain level in time, they have to upgrade it so they can keep their communications, so you can keep communications on the planet. That's why they went to the 5G. The sun's getting hotter now. As the sun keeps getting hotter, they're going to have to keep upgrading the frequency so everything can be connected through the internet. It's just the artificial of the world grid. It's an artificial world grid. Because with these portals, everything's connected. The whole universe is connected. These portals is connected, and now the internet's connected worldwide. You could talk to somebody in, across the whole planet if you want to. Moving at 99.99999 allegedly. Moving at that, because you can't move at the speed of light. There's no way you can move at the speed of light. It's always going to be a step down from the speed of light. It's like that for a reason. It's like that for a reason. But yeah, I was looking at this this grid, and it just looks like the World Wide Web. Breaking down the grid and the web. Now, a lot of people, minds, they can't fathom a portal being open through plasma and whatever else that you can use to open up these portals, because they can't stay open. They have to be closed. They have to be shut. It's the separation from each dimension. They have to close them. They have to open them, and it's not going to be just open. The ones that's walking through these portals, they might even be porting through with some type of craft, but they're not using spaceships. The Israelites always pushing the spaceships, and because there are some beings out there that fly through space. But I'm talking about, that's third dimensional beings that's third dimensional beings that have better technology. That's all that is. I'm talking about beings coming through portals through other dimensions. They're not using spaceships. They're not using crafts. They might use a craft to come through the portal and then use it to maneuver through a planet, but they're not traveling through space. They're not traveling through space. The only thing that they're really concerned about is the future ones getting into the future. They're not concerned about everybody else, because the original ones that walked the planet, they know that it was going to go back to them, because that's how the future played out. That's how they got to where they were. That's how they got to where they at, allegedly 13 billion years into the future. You're talking about 13 billion years in the future, then that means that this planet is 13 means that this planet is going into 9 billion years behind in technology. And think about that. 9 billion years behind in technology. I broke down in my last video, all this stuff that you see around you, it's old. This stuff is old. This stuff is even the technology that we don't see, that these governments, they're not coming out with, but everybody knows. There's no secret that everybody knows that there's certain technologies out there that they don't tell everybody about. That stuff's even old. How old is it? 9 billion years, according to Google. I'm just going to say according to Google. Give or take 100-something million times years. So that's the grid. Phone drop. Give me a second, y'all. So the whole goal is to make y'all think about everything. You just gotta think. I seen a sister on the internet today, and her daughter was playing with an instrument, and she had crystals and copper and certain elements around her. And because I don't really get into all that, but I sat there and looked at it. I said, that's better for her to have her doing that than to be watching SpongeBob, or be manipulated by the entertainment, internally taming your mental. So I said, what? I said, that sister's doing something that needs to be done. Can't even be mad about that. You know, you see what's going on today. Everybody emotional, walking around. I seen the Black Panthers. A lot of people that went viral. You know, they doing their thing, protecting their community. You know, I'm not mad about that. But you know, one thing they got to do is just get some order in, get some structure into that, some order and some structure. You know, don't let mankind push your buttons where you get out of order, because they good at that. But I ain't finna, you know, that's them. That's what they doing, man. I ain't even, you know, really focused on the physical aspect, because when the magnetism level on this planet reaches a certain point, guns ain't even gonna work no more. Your guns, them bullets is gonna shoot and they're gonna fall straight to the ground. The magnetism's gonna be too high. That's one thing the Israelites do got right, as far as keeping you a sword. Just like when you train in water, when you train in water and you defy gravity a little bit using um water cells, it makes your muscles evolve quicker from the tension of the water current. So yeah, when that magnetism gets to a certain level, them lead bullets is gonna shoot and they're gonna fall straight to the ground. They won't work. It's the activated one, New Brighton. Good night.